All right, Chris, so we've been working on some stuff the last couple of weeks in our wedge clinics. Basically a lot of straightforward stuff around the greens. I would say it's like kind of 100, 200 level college courses.
I'd agree with that. Yep.
Let's dip into some of like the 400 level stuff. So, you see the guys on tour, a lot of the guys, hit that kind of like mid-level checker that has a ton of spin on it. It's probably one of the biggest questions we get is, hey, how do I put more spin on around the green?
Right.
In my opinion, and yours can differ too, is I think it's face control. I think a lot of it has to do with how the face is in relation to the golf ball, how we are in the backswing and through swing. But what's some of your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of like almost like hitting a 9-iron and a wedge. I mean, the wedge is going to have more spin than the 9-iron just because there's more loft to it, right? So I feel like if we can get some more loft, kind of where we start it, right? It's more straightforward. When we start trying to want to hit it higher with more spin, we're going to try to create more loft, right?
Right. Okay, so that's a really important key, what you just said. So in order to create more spin, we do need to create a little bit more loft on a shot like this.
Correct, yeah.
Right. So what's the proper way to create that loft is not to turn our hands, right? We're going to turn it first, and then we're going to re-grip it with our standard.
Yeah,
grip.
without a doubt. Yep.
Yeah.
Especially if we're trying to hit that higher shot, we're just going to kind of start up in this position where we're at here. I mean, if we want to take obviously a little bit less loft off, it's just the vice versa side of it, so we're going to get a little bit more square.
So there's not only two shots, right? You've got kind of your standard kind of low one, right, that runs out a little bit. You've got what people always consider a flop shot, but what I would consider kind of this shot, and probably one I use the most, and I've seen you use the most too, is like that, what I would call a high softy. Right? And it's more about getting in the proper position, ball's in the center of the stance. We have a little more weight forward, a little more 60-40. But it's got to be a neutral shaft angle. So when you look at it from the side, we have basically a neutral shaft angle. There's not a lot of forward press, but we still have to be a little bit more forward in our stance. Yeah. I think the key to this, like you're saying, is that face control, is controlling that face being open.
And I think that second part that goes into it, right, is if you want to hit something low and running, we're going to keep the club low and low, right?
Yes.
I mean, you start looking at kind of angle coming into impact.
Good point.
The steeper it is down, the more launch you're going to get off the face. So, you don't want to for sure open it up and kind of take the club back without any angles.
You want to put a little hinge into it.
Yep, a little bit of angle here.
Right.
So now we're creating that downward hit to impact here. And then kind of maintaining the loft of the club, right? That's what's going to get that spin.
Do you feel that? Do you tend to feel that hinge?
I do.
I don't.
Really?
Like I kind of naturally do it, I think.
I've always seen you. Actually, I watch you chip, and like it doesn't
like
look
crazy.
like you. Yeah, even
everyone's like, "Oh, do you have to hinge
awesome.
it on purpose?" I'm like, I don't know. Just kind of one of those things that I do.
It's almost like the problem too is it's like the last thing you want to do in a golf swing, right? You don't ever in a golf swing want to come here, create a little bit angle and kind of maintain the loft.
But if you hinge, what can you not do? You can't chase that back.
Correct.
Right? You can't hang back. If you hinge and you hang back, this thing's burying right into the ground.
Absolutely.
And most of the time, you're either fattening it or thinning it, right?
Right. So I think the philosophy, what we're teaching in the clinics too, it's all right to hit the ground before the ball. We just got to make sure we're doing it properly, right?
Yeah. We have to basically, our target's here. Like that's the one thing I always like to preach is like our target's here. Our force, our momentum needs to go towards our target.
Yes.
In order to get this ball to lift, or to lift how we properly do with the loft, like our target's here. We're not trying to lift this thing off the surface.
Yeah, plenty of loft on the golf club. We don't need to help it out anymore.
Right.
Yep.
All right, what the heck? Let's hit the shot. So I'm trying to hit what I call a high softy. So the way that I do that actually is I keep the face open, a little open in impact, and here's the most important part. Open on the way through, right? We want to make sure that we're using, to Chris's point, all the loft that we can. It's not going to launch really high, just kind of a mid-launch, but this thing's going to spin like crazy. 60-40, a little bit forward. I keep the face open.
Nice.
Very much can control the way the ball lands. That's probably the number one question we get. So.
And I think there's the only other thing too. I mean, I watch a lot of guys chip around the chipping green.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you have a putt that breaks 6 feet, you're going to play it 6 feet out. What I notice a lot of players do when they're hitting these chip shots, they don't play the break.
Yeah.
Right? They hit a shot and then the ball kind of rolls out. And if you played the break properly, you're about 2 feet. But because you hit the low side of the hill and it ran out, now we're at like 6 feet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think
that's really it's kind of from where your spot. You're not looking at the total break. You're looking at where the ball actually lands in your spot.
100%, absolutely. So that's what kind of getting the right technique and getting a ton of feel and practice with it.
Right.
Because I mean, there's so much I like about short game, just because there's so much of an imagination, right? There's tweeners here and there. There's shots you can spin, hit high, hit low, and like you said in the classes we're taking
maybe I need to,
are really good.
Maybe I need to take a page out of this for my full swing, because I worry about everything in my full swing. It's funny, when I'm around the greens, I'm just creating, right? I'm just imagining things. I'm trying to get the ball to do what I want it to do, land where I want it to land, and I'm not thinking about my golf swing the same way as I do on the range. So that's a great point that you just said. Make sure that you're trying to be as creative as possible. Take different clubs, try different shots, put it in rough, put it in fairway, put it against the grain, put it with the grain, all those different things. That's how you become a good wedge player, is more imagination.
I agreed 100%.
All right, thanks, buddy.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
fun.
That was a good time.